So many people wonder why they get stuck and experience a reoccurring visitation from their blocks and feeling a heavy fatigue, maybe being weighed down emotionally and energetically in kind of a consistent basis. And I wanted to talk really quick about how there's something very physical that we can attribute this to and, draw attention to help us clean things up. And that is the topic of just consumption. There are so many things in our world that we have to, one, consume to survive, but there's, in the modern day, in the crazy, compulsive future that we sort of live in, there are, advertisements and products, substances, entertainment, all these things being pushed on us to consume, telling us why we need to grab that. And we find ourselves with crazy, unforeseen addictions in the modern world, or the postmodern world, if you will. And this video is really just for those who are thinking about thinking about all the things that have been weighing them down in that way. You don't realize that consuming is not, though it's primarily, a physical consumption, food, drugs, alcohol, sex. There's also the media consumption and the consumption of ideologies that we don't take into consideration as often, that can be weighing on us. I was talking to a couple yesterday and I was telling a little bit of my story. It's been about 15 months now that I stopped drinking alcohol, which, if I haven't shared my story before, I drank and I, used drugs probably from about my late teenage years to my early 30s. And it was a long sort of road for me to get to the point where I finally said that I don't want to drink anymore. Drinking alcohol was kind of the last thing that hung on, really. I had stopped doing a lot of the drugs, but with taking out drugs, the void was still filled by alcohol. And the same thing sort of happened to me over the past 15 months when I stopped drinking alcohol as well. That void still existed in me. Like, I wanted to stop drinking, but there was still a void physically that I couldn't quite reckon with. And for a few months, that switched over to eating sweets. I had never had much of a sweet tooth before that. And because alcohol is such a, it's derived from sugar. So it is sugars, that I would start eating desserts and stuff like that. And it didn't take me long to realize that just made me feel like shit too. Maybe a few months. But after that, what did I do? I still had a compulsive urge to overeat, because there was still a form of necessary consumption that I was still programmed in, that wanted to fill that void. And same thing, another sort of 6 months or what have you of trying to, when I wanted to live a little or something like that, I would, overeat. And then, obviously I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to tell you that overeating makes you feel like shit at the end of the day. And that's kind of the bottom line of it, is that was the bottom line of using drugs and alcohol anyways. It was though you get some kind of euphoria, or you get stimulated, or in alcohol's case, you get the depressant, you get the sedative of it, and that feels good. You ultimately feel, you feel like shit the next day, or maybe you're someone who doesn't really get hangovers, but your body is still experiencing that sort of recovery. And you're just in a mindset of accepting it more. This is all to say that if you're experiencing some kind of weight on your life or your soul, your spirit seems like it's being dragged back, or you're pulling way too much, I would implore you to take a look at, what are your consuming habits or the patterns behind those habits. Because like with my situation, the consuming didn't want to end, but the consuming of one thing did end. We often don't completely rid our addictions. We are creatures of habit. We just shift them. So how do you, ultimately, the story I just told you, I sort of shifted enough to where I realized all these things really did make me feel like shit. So now I'm not hypersensitive, but I'm, because of that process, more sensitive to the things that make me feel bad. And I can't really go back, even if I have that compulsive mindset that says that, I want to drink today or something like that. I can't go back to that because it won't be the same. It won't give me the same thing, the same fix that I once got from it. So where are you in your life that you recognize you're consuming something too much that has a detrimental effect on you? And like I said before, this is not something that has to be physical eating or something like that. One big addiction out there, one major depreciative form of consumption, depreciative to the soul, that so many men particularly have in this world that not a lot of people see and not a lot of people know how to process, is something like porn. There's a huge psychological problem, and I even believe it's sort of these I believe there are sort of spiritual or demonic succubuses that leech on to people who cannot stop watching so much sexual activity. Sometimes it gets even, sometimes it gets to whatever the type of content it is, consuming on that regular basis can really start depreciating the value in your life, and also adding to this sort of calcified version of what you're capable of, what your human experience is, and it goes unaddressed a lot of the time. So this video is to implore you to dive into yourself, look at some of those things that are bad, and that's okay, like things that aren't serving you. You can find the things that aren't serving you. You can be real with yourself and say, I know that ultimately these things should change and I can uplift my quality of life. And I'm not even saying you have to act this moment. It is a process. Draw attention to that consumption, that compulsive nature that you have, and start there. And then we can start building processes that'll help you get away from them and up your quality of living.